Now we start with Java JDBC. It is a last point of unit first. So what is meant by JDBC? What is the use of JDBC? When we think about any application software, then we are going to take some data from user and feed into our system and process it and generate some specific output to the user and generate some reports, outputs, whatever depends on user requirement. So in that situation, we have to store the data. We have to store the information because everything is depend on the information, and that's to store that information. We can use the different kinds of technologies that is known as the information technology. So to get the data from the user, for that purpose, we can use some specific application, and to store the data or information in computer and hard disk, we can use another application. So to combine these two application, we can use the JDBC, that is database connectivity, Java database connectivity. So Java is the first part, database is second part, and then we are going to connect these two things. That's why it is known as the JDBC, Java database connectivity. Java database connectivity, because we can connect two things, that is Java application and database. So connect these two applications, we can use the connectivity or connection. That's why this technology is known as JDBC, Java database connectivity. So Java is known as a front end, which is visible for user screen. Visible for user screen. User can see this screen, and graphical interface. There is some kind of text boxes, combo box, radio box, list, these kind of buttons. These all kind of things and controls are there in the front end or in the form, and we student can going to fill that form, and when we submit or save that information, when we click on the save that button, this information can go to the database. So to connect these two things, that is known as the JDBC. So form designing using the Java, that is known as the front end, and to store that application, store that information into our computer. To store that information into a computer, we can use some kind of applications, that is in a database. These are database, some kinds of Access, Oracle, SQL, MySQL, whatever, big data. These various kinds of databases are available there to store the information. So database is known as the backend, and front end is the Java. So Java and database, we are going to connect each other and take the information from the user, store that information, and doing the different kinds of process. That is known as the database connector, Java database concepts. So do you understand what is meant by JDBC, Java database connectivity? Java application is for the front end, that is known as the designing of part. Design part means if you want to take an example of student information. So initially you can write that sentence like enter your name. So student can enter their name, enter your class, enter your address, phone number, contact. So these all kind of information we are going to take using the Java application. And when we click on the save button, in that situation, the data can be stored into database. Data can be stored into the database. That's known as a backend. And when the front end, that is where we can take all kind of information using different kinds of controls and graphical interface that is developed in Java language. Okay, so these two things are there, front end and back end. To connect this, we can use the JDBC. So different kinds of JDBC drivers are there. Depends on situation. Depends on situation. There are different kinds of drivers are there. So initially we are going to see the 4 drivers. So what is meant by drivers? To take your data into the database. Drivers, the regular drivers are going to work as a to move the information, data, peoples, object one place to another place. So these drivers can take a data from Java graphic user interface and store into the database. So that's why you can use a driver. It can drive your data from the front end and store into the database. So to connect with do two things, Java and database, we can use the different kinds of drivers. So if we have the small database, large database, then you can use the database in networking application or in the web application. So these different kinds of processes and different kinds of situations are there. So depending on that situation, we are going to use the different kinds of drivers. So if you have take a simple example, we have to go to long drive on two-wheeler. So we can use anyone can drive the two-wheeler bike. So we have do not worry about that different specific driver. So you can easily drive the bike and easily go to the travel. So, but in the, we are going to use a large bus. So you have to take a driver like who has a specifically trained and specified driver which are going to drive the specific bus, car, or which have the proper license or that kind of data document. So that's same as here we can use different kinds of drivers to drive our data front end to back end. Okay, so in simple language, uh, you can take a data from one place to another place. To transport that data, we can use the drivers. So first is the basic introduction of JDBC. So JDBC stands for Java Database Connectivity. JDBC is a Java API to connect and execute the query with database. See, this is very important sentence. Java JDBC, that is JDBC is Java API. API means what? Application Program Interface. Application Program Interface. The application means to fulfill the user requirement. That's why we are going to develop a program. And interface means what? Graphical user interface. Graphic which you are going to see in front on the screen. And after that we can do the different kinds of operations and also execute the different kinds of queries with database. So database means what? We are going to store information in the database. And query means what? We can insert data, delete data, modify data, or retrieve data. So these different kinds of queries are going to be executed by also JDBC. So Java API, it is front end, and a query and database is a back end. So it is very important concept regarding to your project also, because you have the project in TY. So in that situation, you have to know what is in the database. You can learn this concept in also C#.NET and also in Java. So JDBC is a Java API, that is application program interface, that is graphic user interface, which will be designed and developed in Java and executed a query with database. This can also help to execute the different kinds of queries with database. So database backend and API is a front end. It is a part of Java SE, that is standard addition, and JDBC API uses JDBC drivers to connect with database. It can use the different kinds of drivers to connect API with database. There are 4 types of drivers. The first one is JDBC ODBC driver, second is native driver, next one is network protocol driver, and thin driver. So different kinds of drivers can use the different kinds of situation, and in that situation we are going to use these drivers. So JDBC ODBC bridge driver, Java database connectivity, and ODBC object database connectivity bridge drivers. This is going to be a bridge in between two things, JDBC and ODBC. JDBC is a platform or driver which will be written in Java, and ODBC bridge is anyone can connect using the ODBC, that is object database connectivity, which will be written in C and CPP. It is platform dependent. It is a platform dependent, but Java is a platform independent language. So ODBC, JDBC can convert the calls of user into the ODBC using the ODBC driver, bridge driver. Then after he is going to execute different kinds of applications and queries, then it can be convert your output into the Java platform. So JDBC, ODBC initially used for the small databases, and there is also connected and disconnected architecture. Connections are there, which will be learned, we see in next session. And then these drivers are used for storing small information, small database. Native drivers, it is also written in Java, partially written in Java. So in native drivers, you are to place the drivers and libraries of database or JDBCs into the specific operating system where we are going to execute this application. Okay, that is why known as native drivers. Native protocol drivers, it is also pure Java or partially Java driver, which will be partially written in Java language. It is also used for the networking application. That's why it is known as a network protocol. So network means what? Connected machines to each other, and protocols means what? The set of rules. Protocols means what? Set of rules. So drivers. So network protocol drivers are there, and the thin driver. So thin driver is used for the MySQL, that is web application. It is very popular applications, and these two bridges are only used for the information purpose. It is not used worldwide, and not is not popular because it is very time consuming and old version drivers. So the popular and very effective and essential driver is thin driver, that is MySQL driver. Basically, it is used for the, or mostly it is used for the web application. So these are the four different kinds of drivers in the Java database connectivity. In exam, you can have the minimum one and maximum two drivers for the 5 marks. For the 5 marks. So it is very important concepts is there. So four types of drivers. 101% you can have the minimum one question on these drivers. And also we can discuss after some time the concept will come. So we have to discuss the above four drivers in this next chapter. We can use the JDBC API to access tabular data stored in relational database. So JDBC API used to access tabular data. Tabular data means what? The data which will be stored in the form of table. Data which will be stored in the form of table and relational database. That is, multiple tables are connected with each other. That is primary key, foreign key. That's all. Okay, by the help of JDBC API, we can save, update, delete, and fetch the data from database. By using the JDBC API, we can do the different kinds of operations and execute different kinds of queries like save the data, update the data, delete the data, and fetch data, which will be stored in the database. It is like open database connectivity, that is ODBC, provided by the Microsoft. So ODBC can open database connectivity. Anyone can connect this database and do the different kinds of applications, operations using these drivers. And ODBC can provide by the Microsoft. So every operating system can have the ODBC connectivity. So see the diagram: JDBC API, Java application, JDBC driver, and database. So JDBC API, that is application program interface, and actual logic, that is a graphical interface is there, and drivers which will be used to connect database and Java application. It is used as an intermediator. It is used as a bridge. It is used as a bridge. That's why it is known as Java JDBC ODBC bridge driver. JDBC ODBC bridge driver. It is used as a bridge between two different kinds of application, that is front end and back end. Front end and back end. Java application, JDBC driver, and database. So database is back end, Java application is front end. To connect these two things and do the different kinds of applications and execute the different kinds of queries, we can use the JDBC driver, which will help to store, retrieve, update, and delete the record. The current version of JDBC is 4.3. It is a stable release since 21st September 2017. It is based on the XOpenSQL call level interface. The java.sql package contains Java classes and interface for JDBC API. A list is popular interface of JDBC API given below. So what are the applications and APIs of JDBC? That is driver interface, connection interface, statement interface, repeat statement, callable statement, result interface, result set metadata, and database metadata. So currently we can use the 4.3 JDBC version, which is released in or stable released in 21st September 2017. It is based on X and OpenSQL call level interface. The java.sql packages contains the classes and interfaces for JDBC API. So every time you have to import java.sql packages. A list of popular interfaces of JDBC API are given below. The popular interfaces, that means what, we can reuse the regular interfaces to do the different kinds of applications, execute different kinds of applications. So driver manager can use for the connecting the different kinds of applications, drivers and databases. Connection, to establish a connection between database and front end. Statement means what, we can use the different kinds of statement like create, update, select, delete. Okay. Prepared statements are there, already prepared. Callable statements, we can call ready-made callable statements are there. Result set means what, the collection of results. If you have to select star from FYT, select star from TYT. So all the records of TYT which becomes and stored into the result set. Collection of results, set of results, that is result set. So these different kinds of interfaces we are going to use, and here is also very important concepts are there in the driver, connection interface, statement, prepared statement, and result set. In these 5-6 interfaces are there. In these interfaces, minimum 2 and 1 interface, 101% you can have the question on this interface in exam. Okay, see, we have the different kinds of information or knowledge about the subject. So I know how will be paper is going to set, and in which topic which point is 101% or and mostly asked in the question paper. So prepared statement and result set is very important, very important, and driver interview is also very important. The mostly questions are asked in the paper using these two interfaces. So why we use JDBC? So before JDBC, ODBC API was a database API to connect the and execute the query with the database. But ODBC API uses ODBC drivers, which is written in C language. That is platform dependent. That's why Java has defined its own API, that is JDBC API, that uses JDBC drivers written in Java. So why we use JDBC? That is Java Database Connectivity. So already we have the ODBC drivers which will be offered by the Microsoft. But ODBC is a platform dependent. ODBC is platform dependent because it is written in C language. But Java is platform independent. They need the platform independent driver. So that's why they write its own application or API for the database connectivity, that is Java Database Connectivity, which is written in pure Java language. Then we can use JDBC API to handle database using Java program and can perform the following activities. So what is the task of JDBC? What is the different kinds of programs, and they can perform the different kinds of operations using JDBC API, that is connect to the database. They are connected with the database and execute the queries and update the statements to the database. Execute the queries means what? Select the data, insert data, update data, and delete the data. These are the queries, okay, using the database. And retrieve the results from the database. It can retrieve, take the data which will be stored by the user and application in the database. It will be retrieved by the database. To retrieve the data, we can use the JDBC API also. Okay, that's why you can use the JDBC to do the different kinds of work or perform different kinds of operations like connect the database, execute the query, and retrieve the results. So what is meant by API? So API means what? Application Program Interface is a document that contains the description of all the features of product or software. It represents classes and interfaces that software programs can follow the communicate with each other, and API can create for applications, libraries, and operating systems. So API is used to store different kinds of information regarding the application. and also create the interfaces and do the different kinds of operations and create different kinds of applications for the different purpose. So do this API, create this API, we are going to use the drivers that are known as the JDBC drivers. So now we see the in detail what is meant by drivers. So JDBC drivers is the software component that enables the Java application to interact with the database. So JDBC drivers is the software component that enables the user to Java application to interact with the database. It is going to create a environment, create a platform to communicate with database. There are four different kinds of JDBC drivers are there. The first one is JDBC OTBC driver. Second one is native API driver, that is partially Java driver, and network protocol API, that is fully Java driver, and thin driver, that is fully Java driver, which is fully written in Java. And second is partial written in Java, and ODBC is written in C language because it is a platform dependent. Okay. So now we see one by one what is meant by the Java drivers and what are the different drivers of the JDBC.